Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to curve concrete. Probably the easiest way that I've found in 45 years of doing concrete is to form curves in concrete. And it's going to be with the forming system we're using here, polymetaforms. Now, they're not paying me to do this or anything like that. This isn't a paid promotion or nothing. These are just some forms we've had that we got from these people, and we really like them. Now, I've used all different types of forms to do curves, you know, from AZAC to quarter-inch plywood to landscape and stuff. These are the easiest. This is the easiest way I've found to do curved concrete, and it's really simple. You're going to get to see the whole video here, us doing the forming, pouring, the stamping. Now, we've already done 2 feet of stamped concrete around this pool. The customer now decides he wants another 2 feet, so he can use one of those really strong pool covers here. 2 feet isn't enough. You need at least 4 feet to be able to mount that pool cover onto the pool for the winters. So you can see how we just curve that right around. You know, they go together really easily. There's 2 little prongs that go into the next set of stamp, the next form, and then you have those clamps that go over the seams. And then there's another set of clamps that the guys are putting on right now that just clip into the forms wherever you want to put them, as close as you want to put them. They clip right in there, and then you drive your metal pin down there. Then there's a wedge in the clamp that holds the form to height if you want to set it to grade like we are right now. So Darren's got the bucket of clamps right there. He's going around putting them in, then Luke's just following them up. We're using a 2-foot level to get our spacing to make it the exact same curve as the original concrete. And the forms come in different heights. We only have the 4-inch one, so basically like a 2x4. But they come in 6-inch, they come in 8-inch, I think, and you can stack them. I'll have a link for the website down in the description if you want to check it out after the video. Now remember, we're just doing the forming right here. Now we're going to tie a mat of rebar in here, but I'm also going to show you pouring. We're going to power buggy this, and we're going to dump the concrete in here, and you'll get to see, you know, the forms are fairly rigid. They also, speaking about rigid, they also make a set of rigid forms, so straight forms. If you want to use the same type of forming system to do straight stuff like slabs and things like that. And we have a bunch of the straight ones too. They're all 12 foot long, and those are really nice too. And you can stack them on top of each other if you need to you know, to make 8 inches or 12 inches or whatever you need to do. So what we're doing right now is we're just going around making sure there's a slight slope away from the original concrete. The original concrete we did was a stone texture stamp. We put a little bit of gray color in the concrete, and then we added a secondary color when we did the teak wash afterwards. You're going to get to see that whole process, except for the teak washing here. I don't think I got any of the teak washing in here, but basically the whole process from start to finish. And you'll see just how well these matched up. This is a year later, and you know, we're trying to get the concrete to match so it doesn't look like it was done separately. Now the reason we're going to drill and pin this too, because we don't want it to move from each other, but the reason we're putting the iso foam, this is only 1/8 of an inch wide, is because if one ever does move differently than the other, we don't want that edge to chip or flake. And even if you drill and pin it, it still could pivot a little bit if it did move. Now, I don't think it ever will because of all the gravel that's under here, but this is just as a precaution, just to be safe. You know, we put that 1/8 inch iso strip there, foam, and now we're going to drill it and pin it with rebar. And then we'll put a little tiny rebar mat in here also. We also have, when we pour the concrete, our stamping mix is 4,000 psi 3/8, so pea stone with fiber mesh in it too. So I have a secondary type of reinforcement in it, and that works good for stamping. I like the smaller stone. Whenever we stamp stuff, I really like the smaller 3/8 stone versus the 3/4 stone. And I teach all this stuff in the Concrete Underground or my stamp concrete course. If you guys really want to get into stamping or pouring and finishing concrete, you know, you can check those out. The links for those are down in the description. Those are all my training videos. We like the fiberglass rebar just for this reason. This is one really good reason, because it bends really easily. It's really lightweight, doesn't rust, obviously. So we're getting more and more into using the fiberglass rebar for most all our pours, whether even if it's a garage slab or whenever it's spec'd, we're getting into that. And that's kind of what it looks like. Now, a 2-foot wide pour is actually kind of tough to do. I mean, when we dump, you can see we're putting a little bit of color in the mix right now. It's only like 2 or 3 yards, so we're putting the color in right on the job. Usually we'll bring those bags right to the concrete plant. We'll throw them in the truck before he batches, and then that stuff will mix in all the way to the job. Now, this is the power buggy we're using today. And the good thing about the power buggy is it makes it really convenient to get the concrete from the road to here, and it holds a lot of concrete. The tough thing is trying not to dump too much into one spot because it holds so much concrete. And it does splatter quite a bit when you dump it out of that big hopper bucket there. So we're trying not to get any splatters on the original concrete or on the tarp, and we're just trying to make sure things are as clean as possible. I do like the power buggies with the tracks like this versus the one with the wheels. It didn't tear up the lawn at all, and it just has a lot better traction. I've used both a lot. In the wheels, I find, like the wheels would have worked good on this today because the ground is really solid. But as soon as you get into anything soft, those wheels, they don't work. They'll just sit and spin. So the tracks, you can get just about anywhere with a power buggy with the track. So if you are thinking about using one and you got kind of a tough spot, tough terrain, kind of sandy terrain or gravelly terrain that's not compacted real well, you're going to want one with the tracks like this. You can see how we're going around. Luke and Darren, they're being really careful not to make a mess. We're trying not to get the concrete on the outside of the forms too, because we don't want to make a mess on the outside of the form or along the clamps and the pins, you know, just less cleanup afterwards. This is about, I slowed this down into real time now just so you could see about how slow this was going around here and how much it splatters as we're doing it. Just dumping a little bit at a time, then I'm letting Luke kind of spread it out a little bit. And, you know, probably 3/4 full on the power buggy did about, 8 or 9 feet, lineal feet of pool deck there. That's what concrete looks like when you put gray in it. It looks almost the same. It is a little darker than normal, and it will stay darker, after you put the sealer on it. You'll see at the end of the video when we're going to seal both the original piece that's under the tarp and the new piece at the same time. And you'll get to see if or, just how well these two pieces matched up. And then you can let me know in the comments if you think they matched up pretty good or if you think the color was way off. Now on this last power buggy, I didn't want to drive on this field stone walkway. But that power buggy is pretty heavy, especially after you put that much concrete in it. So we'll keep it on the grass. We'll get as close as we can. That's why we saved this little piece for last. And then we're just going to shovel it in this last piece. Better to be safe than sorry. If I damage that walkway, then I'm paying to have it fixed, and it's just not worth it just for one single power buggy full of concrete. This would have been good for a couple wheelbarrows here, but wheeling up over that bank all the way across the lawn is just a recipe for somebody to get hurt, and we've all thrown our backs out wheeling concrete. So just one power buggy you got to shovel isn't that big a deal. So all in all, the forms held really well. You can see we didn't have to really go back and tweak anything or put any bracing in. The closest that we put the pins and just the rigidity of the forms themselves, they hold their shape really well versus, say, if you're using 1/4-inch plywood or even AZAC. Like we've used AZAC forms, if that's the PVC type forms, and those do bend really well, although they are really super expensive. But we would have had to put in probably twice as many pins on something like that versus what we use here today. So once we get all the tools cleaned up, there wasn't much of a wait time on this. We did pour it fairly stiff, Sun's out, you know, it's a fairly nice day today, so we got right back on it. We edged both sides, and now we're getting on it, doing mag floating it out. This is a stamp roller, it has a stone texture on it that we really like. I got that from DEWALT Tools. DEWALT Tools has all kinds of stamping stuff if you're interested in, you know, buying some stamping stuff. But the roller stuff is really convenient. This is what we call just pre-stamping. We like to get a little pre-texture on there, and then we'll use the matte stamps, because the matte stamp, we could just leave it with the roller, honestly, but it wouldn't match the interior because we use these mattes on the interior. And the difference is the mattes have like the veins in them. I'll try to get a little close-up shot here in a minute. They have the veins of the stone in the matte that you can't put in the roller. Otherwise it would be really repeatable on the roller. And if you notice, when I'm using the mats, you know, when I pick them up and I go to set them over and set them back down, I'm kind of rotating them 90 degrees just to get a little bit different pattern on, you know, as I move the stamps around the slab here.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, you can kind of see the veining a little bit there in the stamp, but those stone texture stamps, even the ones on the ground here to the left, you can see a little bit of a vein in them. I didn't think I needed to use those other bigger ones. I was keeping up with it by myself as Darren was going ahead of me with the roller. So we just kept using that same kind of system all the way around. Now Darren's using clear liquid release on this. We will add a secondary color when we come back. We'll actually come back tomorrow with the next day and wash this, clean it, saw it, you know, match the exact same joints that are in the original. And then we'll add a secondary color using Decocrete's kind of teak wash is what we call it. And that'll add like a charcoalish type color to the surface. It's almost like staining it. Yeah, you can kind of see the veins a little bit there to the right. The roller just doesn't have that stuff. That's a good look at them right there. So all in all, this is going pretty good. The curves look really nice. They matched up with the original pool really good. We use this little roller just basically for touch-up stuff. You know, if we see that we want a little extra texture in an area or something that just doesn't look right to us, we'll just run that little hand roller over it, and that works really well. Even up against edges, sometimes when you're stamping up against an edge that's rigid like a form or original concrete like we are, sometimes you don't get as much texture as you like. So we'll use that roller for that. Now I can discuss the cost of what it would cost to come back and do something like this, or the original cost of the stamped concrete, you know, in the Concrete Underground. If you guys want to join that and talk about cost and price and stuff like this, we go over stuff like that in the Underground. And whether you're getting in the business of doing stamped concrete or just getting in the concrete business itself, you know, helping you with estimates and stuff like that, I can do that in that training program. So here we are, the last pickup right here. Looking at everything. Everything looks really good. Luke's just coming behind me, just touching up a couple areas. So the whole stamp process went really well. The next process is, you know, we come back, we'll wash the residue from the liquid release off. Basically like washing a car is what I call it, just scrubbing it off. And then right after we get done this, usually we'll add the secondary color, what we call the teak wash, right after we get done scrubbing it. But today, because it's raining, we didn't do that. So we had to come back or wait till it stops raining and do the secondary color. Otherwise, the rain's just going to rinse that color off. So here's let me know what you guys think. Like, how did we match up? And you can also see that if you have stamped concrete, you know, that's a year old, 2 years old, 5 years old, whatever. If you just pressure wash it and clean it, if it's still in really good shape, and then you reseal it like Darren's doing here on that original one, you can make that stuff look like brand new again. And if you look, after he seals both pieces together, I thought it matched up really well. Now remember, this first piece, the second piece actually, the one we just poured, is still curing a little bit, so it's gonna fade a little bit as it cures. But all in all, I thought it matched up really well. And now the guy can, have the pool company come in, install his cover, and it's going to hold up really well. So let me know what you guys think down in the video. If you want to learn more about doing this type of stuff, then click on the link for the Concrete Underground, and we can go over things in there. Make sure you check out these next 2 videos coming up. I'll have more stuff here about how to curve concrete and these forming curves.